fewer planes go down now than they did 10 years ago and 20 years ago. I mean, like, the numbers of plane crashes are getting smaller and smaller, and itsy-bitsy nothing events, like scary things, are now being lifted to the level of a plane crash. Cruise ships airlines wish they had the luxury that the cruise ships do, which is just I'm not talking about...
Yeah.
Nope, not going to talk about it.
Well, one person goes overboard or whatever. It's not huge news. It's not like 200 people on an airline are getting killed.
Right. That's much more. That's a better headline.
Well, and as macabre as this sounds, there are people who go on cruises to die.
I can see that.
And that's that's one of the things. I know I've talked about this before, but that's one of the things that they will tell you when you are doing your training for a cruise ship is that, listen, people are going to go overboard because they want to. They want to treat themselves to one last nice thing, and then this is a nice place to just go overboard. And obviously that's not a fun fact, but it's a fact. So,
and and that's something we haven't talked about, which is the chances of being rescued once you go overboard are really
so
small.
slim. They're tiny.
Well, you have to land. I mean, it's how far do you think it is? 100 feet above the water?
Well, there's that. You got to land.
You got to land perfectly to not break something and knock yourself out.
But you also have to land far enough away from the ship that you don't get sucked under it.
Well, that's what I was going to say,
Yeah.
and this is what I think happened to Rebecca. Is she probably got sucked into the screws and chopped up a bit, and that put a lot of blood into the water, which attracted the sharks, who came over and sort of tidied things up. So not surprising they never found a body.
Yeah.
Let's just take sharks out of this. Let's just say that she went into the water and she drowned. She's going to go under. I mean, even if the sharks don't get her, ever.
Yeah.
The body isn't going to just be floating on top indefinitely for somebody to find. That's not the way drownings work.
Well, even if it did, it could be easy to overlook. But I really think that she got sucked into the screws, chopped up, and then eaten by sharks.
That's his theory.
That's my theory.
It's Shark Week for Joe.
Yeah. My theory is that she went off the ship, and I don't know what happened to her after that, but she's not alive.
It's hard to imagine her going off the bow and not going into the screws.
I agree with that. No, I absolutely agree with that, but I just don't want to think about it.
Yeah, that's true. It is pretty horrible. It is pretty awful.
So I guess... So
I was going to say, my theory is that she peeved off Cinderella, who, of course, has the fairy godmother in her back pocket. And that carriage showed up, and they shoved her in. And then the pumpkin became a pumpkin again.
That could be. I'm still going with Mickey. Because if you see any of the pictures of Rebecca...
He's a flirtatious... He's a womanizer.
Oh, yeah. Well, but I don't know if you noticed this, but one of the main pictures you see of Rebecca, she's holding this cat. And, suppose Mickey saw that picture. Well, and he wants to avenge all his relatives who've been killed by cats.
Yeah. So in a serious closing note, sorry.
Okay.
I don't think that DCL is doing anything. I mean, I think they're withholding a lot of evidence, but I don't think they're lying.
I don't think that they should be holding that information, but I agree that they're probably doing it for very selfish reasons.
Well, I don't even know if that... I mean, I think it's totally reasonable to assume that everything else they have is totally unusable, and...
That's what I'm thinking. I think if they had any smoking guns, they'd probably be sharing with us.
Yeah.
Say an
if only to clear their name.
Yeah, I mean, say obviously Disney themselves, the shareholders and board of directors of Disney, didn't commit any murders. Maybe an employee did it, in which case, well, if they had evidence, they probably would turn it over.
Yeah, they would.
I mean, if you knew about a murderer, would you just keep it quiet, knowing the murderer's going to go out and kill somebody else, maybe even you or somebody you know?
Yeah, depends on who it was.
That's true, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why you don't ride the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does have Johnny Depp now.
Did they put Johnny Depp in there?
Yeah.
Oh,
he kills people constantly.
Yeah. Anything else?
I think that's about it.
Okay, well, if you want to see any of the research that we did, we'll put some links up on our website. That website is thinkingsidewayspodcast.com. You can listen there, or you're probably listening to us on like iTunes or Stitcher or any other streaming thing in this world.
Google Play.
Google Play now too, yeah. So if you're on any of those and you haven't yet, please don't forget to give us a subscribe and, rate and review us if you care to. You can find us on Facebook. We've got a group of ways. We've got a subreddit, which is just Our Thinking Sideways. You can email us if you have questions, concerns, suggestions, general praise. That's thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com.
That is.
So you were just shaking your head at me. It made me very nervous that I was saying something wrong.
I was shaking my head because last week you told me we weren't using the R for Reddit anymore, and now you're doing it. So you're just giving me mixed signals.
Yeah, that's true.
You're confusing me,
Yeah.
as Reddit tends to do.
Yeah.
You're making it worse for me.
I know. And other than that, we've got the PayPal and the Patreon if you want to do a monetary donation to the podcast of any kind. PayPal's good for one-time donations. Patreon's good for recurring donations. You pledge a certain amount per episode, and you get charged for that certain amount per episode. We also have merch if you prefer that.
And if you want to contribute in some other way, we accept bear skins, ivory, anything like that.
Not ivory. We won't take ivory.
Oh, okay. No ivory? Okay.
No.
What about giraffe pelts?
Yeah, giraffe pelts, sure.
Only if
pearl.
they're antique.
Okay.
Polar bears?
Antique.
Teeth?
Antique.
All right.
Penguin?
No.
In general?
Yeah.
Antique or not?
I just don't
Yeah.
like penguins.
What about the umbrella holder that is out of the foot of an elephant?
Yeah, there you
So
go.
all of that
An
having been
ashtray made from a
said,
gorilla's hand. Yeah.
all of that having been said, we're gonna get out of here.
All
right.
right.
So yeah, see you guys next week.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye, boys and girls! Bye-bye!
Thinking Sideways.
I don't understand.
Does not compute.
You never know.
Insufficient data to formulate a reply.
What?
Stories of things we simply don't know the answer to.
Hey guys, welcome. It's Thinking Sideways, the podcast. Team Sideways here to solve a mystery for you. I'm Devin, joined this time by
Joe,
and
Steve,
as opposed to the other times.
which is where I am Joe.
Yeah, I'm Steve.
yep, that's true.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to
Okay.
adjust the way you talk, you two.
Yeah, I know.
I'm going to have to lower my voice.
And Joe's gonna have to talk way slower.
I can't help the rate I have my speech patterns at.
I know. This week we're going to talk about something that was requested by a number of people. Lots and lots of people. Pretty much since we started doing the podcast, it's been a pretty constant stream, and we've been saying no.
Well, I wouldn't say we said no as much as there were
Later.
other ones we wanted to tackle
Not
first.
tonight.
Yeah, but
My
actually,
head kind of hurts.
I know, but there's been a recent development in this
There has.
particular case.
So
Which-
we're gonna
good
talk
thing
about
we
that.
waited.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good. It's good. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
we do wait sometimes, and this is a good reason why.
Yep.
We're gonna talk about the disappearance of Zeb Quinn. 9 p.m. on January 2nd, 2000. Zeb Quinn finishes his shift at Walmart. He's 18 years old, and he and his friend Robert Jason Owens decide to go look at a car that Zeb has been thinking about buying. They converse about it quickly for a minute in the parking lot, and then they each get in their own cars, and they stop at a gas station at about 9:15 p.m., after which Owens reports that Zeb flashed his lights at him. Zeb was behind
This is
Owens.
that they're driving.
Yeah, and he flashes his lights, which I guess is like universal signal for hey, pull over.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, but
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
no, I've had cell phones as long as I've driven. You just text the person. You say, hey,
Yeah.
pull
You're
over.
not supposed
Continue
to text
on.
and drive.
Stop making me feel old.
So they pull over, and Zeb hops out of the car, and he says he's gotten a page, so he's gonna go walk over to the payphone to make a phone call.
Okay, now I read that he actually drove back somewhere to make the call, that there wasn't a payphone where they'd pulled over.
Yeah, I've read that
Oh.
too. Yeah.
I've seen it both ways,
Yeah,
so that's
I
why
have
I bring
too,
it
so.
up, because I don't know that he went necessarily back to the gas station where
That's
they...
possible.
Because we know that the time that they were at the gas station because they were on camera.
But there was no camera of him coming back, so I suspect it wasn't they would
No.
have mentioned that. So.
There could have been other payphones.
Oh, I'm
near
sure
the
there
gas
were.
station. Yeah.
There were lots of payphones in those days.
Yeah, remember that?
Yeah.
Don't see so many of them anymore.
That's because nobody has pagers.
Yeah.
When Zeb returned, Owens described him as kind of frantic, and Zeb said he needed to cancel their plans to go look at the car and drove off, rear-ending Owens' car on the way out. That's how much of a hurry he was in, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Again, this is another inconsistent one between various accounts of the story, because the one that I heard is that after he said he needed to go return the page, he rear-ended his car then, and then came back 10 minutes later after making the phone call and apologized and said he couldn't go look at the car.
That's interesting. I actually hadn't seen that anywhere.
So either did it as he went to answer the page or after.
Yeah,
he did rear-end Owens.
Yeah, either way.
According to Owens.
It's kind of a trivial thing.
Yeah.
But somebody's going to call us on that probably. But
probably, yeah. Around midnight, Owens shows up at a hospital with a couple fractured ribs and a head injury. He says he was in a car accident, though of note there was no car accident reported.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, I was not able to find this out anywhere. Was that a single car accident, or?
Well, I don't think that anybody knows, because guess what wasn't reported?
Whoever else was involved didn't ever come forward,
or if he ran into a pole.
I was going to say it was a single car accident.
He said, he told the police, the hospital called the police or something like that, but the report was that it had happened near the Waffle House on Interstate 26.
Love the Waffle House.
Yeah, the Waffle House.
Yeah, the Waffle House.
Yeah, so anyway, that's an interesting thing. It's like maybe the police have more detailed records about
it hasn't
this.
been released.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's the thing. It hasn't been released, so it's frustrating. So I have a lot of questions about this.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I do want to pause here for a second. I think some of our listeners are going to be excitedly sitting and listening, driving. I think most of you driving,
commuting in some way,
going, I know that name. Why do I know that name? Why does Robert Jason Owens sound so familiar? Well, friends, we'll talk about that.
Not quite yet.
But not yet.
No.
So just chill for a second.
Hold on.
Okay.
We'll get there.
We will get there, I promise. 2 days after Zeb disappeared, a phone call was placed by someone claiming to be Zeb to his place of work, Walmart, claiming to be sick so he wouldn't be into work. The coworker that he spoke to,
the caller,
the coworker that was answering the call, knew Zeb pretty well and decided that the voice didn't sound like him even if he was sick. So he called the cops because by this point, it should be noted, I just totally glossed over this, by this point, Zeb's mom had reported him missing.
Yeah,
it's been 2 days.
It's been 2 days.
And by the way, another version I heard of this is that the guy was suspicious. He didn't call the cops, but he did a *69 on him.
Somehow.
He called him back, and somebody answered, and then later on he told the police that,
But somehow the call was traced to a Volvo factory that happens that Owens worked at, and the cops questioned him and said, hey, dude, was Zeb here? What's going on? And Owen said, oh no, Zeb called me and he said he needed me to call in to work for him. Which, if you can use a phone, why don't you just call Walmart yourself and say, hey, I'm sick, I won't be in. I don't know why you call your friend to call the place.
I actually have an idea on that. I've had jobs where you had to call in within X amount of time before your start of your shift. So you couldn't call in 4 hours before your shift.
Oh.
But you had to call in you could call in 2 hours before your shift. So let's say you start at 10. The earliest you can call in and say, I can't come in is 8. So that, I don't know what Walmart's policy is or what it was at that time, but I've been in jobs where you couldn't go out and have too much to drink and call in at 2 a.m. so that you could keep drinking kind of situation.
Sure.
Which is why those policies are in place, so people don't pull that garbage.
Sure, that's fair. Okay, that's a good thought. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, doesn't make any sense to me still.
I agree, but hey.
Yeah.
2 weeks after he disappeared, his car showed up. It was parked in a parking lot of a restaurant called the Little Pigs Barbecue.
Little Pigs Barbecue.
Which,
nice name.
Is that a franchise? Is that why you're saying, or do you know of it?
I have no idea. Okay. I just, Little Pigs Barbecue.
Okay,
I like barbecue.
Fair. Anyways, this restaurant is right next to a hospital that happens to employ Zeb's grandma, mom, and sister. They all worked in a neonatal care unit there.
Nurses, I'm guessing. Okay.
Yep. A hotel key card, several plastic empty drink bottles, hair, a jacket not belonging to Zeb, and a 3-month-old Labrador mixed puppy were found in the car.
Sorry, I'm trying not to get sidetracked by the puppy.
Yeah, I know, me too. On the rear windshield, somebody had drawn large lips with 2 exclamation points in lipstick. and the driver's side seat was adjusted for someone who was much shorter than Zeb.
How do you know how tall Zeb was?
He was like 6'2", I think. I want to say.
Okay,
He was
I
a
never
tall
saw
guy.
it. I never remember. I never remember seeing it specifically.
You know what? No, maybe he was like 5'10". There's not much
He's
difference.
a taller guy.
Taller, not
Taller.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
By the way, the jacket that was found, was that a men's jacket or a women's jacket?
I wasn't able to find that information.
Again, it's always listed as a jacket.
Yep, just as a jacket not belonging to him. I also wasn't able to find any height information for any of the people who have been implicated in this case.
I've actually found a little bit on that.
Okay, great. We'll talk about that in a minute then too. Forensic evidence was collected at from the car at the scene, but nothing ever really came of it. And don't worry, lest we get sidetracked. One of the investigators adopted the puppy, so the puppy's okay.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah,
But
so don't worry about
One shining spot in this story.
that. Really,
Yeah.
the only one. Yeah.
Speaking of the puppy, though, did they find any poop or urine in the car?
There's no mention of that.
Yeah, I haven't seen any either.
But that would indicate how long the dog had been in the car.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think there wasn't any mention of that. The implication that I had that it was fairly recent.
Okay.
I guess
But-
so.
Well, and it's the thing is, I think that the dog could have been in the car. The car could have been there for hours without an issue because we're talking January. Asheville, it's going to be cold, but it's not freezing cold.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's not like it would be a hot summer day where in an hour and a half a dog would expire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luckily for the puppy.
Yeah. Another interesting thing that we're going to talk about as it pertains to this story is Zeb's aunt and kind of girlfriend. They're not the same person. I'm sorry.
No.
The way I
Good
phrased
point.
that.
Good clarification.
Yeah.
And the relationship with the sort of girlfriend is kind of nebulous.
Yeah.
As
apparently,
the aunt relationship.
Yeah, apparently Zeb had kind of started a relationship/friendship with this girl named Misty. Misty had a boyfriend who, according to Zeb, was abusive. There's not a whole lot of information about Misty out there. I did read that she had a kid with her boyfriend, but I can't confirm that through other sources. On the Wikipedia page, it says her boyfriend's name is Wesley, which just
That's what I've heard too. But
as
also,
you wish.
I know.
I always this is one of my hard things with retellings of stories, and then they go through like forums and whatnot, as everybody says the boyfriend was abusive. That could have been as simple as he was a jerk.
Yeah.
And the way that it was described to Zeb, he then translates that into abusive, or some low variant that then the retellings turns out that he's basically a wife beater.
Yeah.
Like, I want people to keep that in mind. We don't know or at her, and Zeb equated that to something else.
Yeah. Next up is Ina Utish. Is that how you would say
Ustish?
that?
Ustish? I don't know.
Ustish? Anyways, that's Zeb's aunt. And though she hadn't spoken to him in years,
Is that true? I thought they just didn't speak often.
I read years, but
Oh, really?
often could be possible too. The description that I read most frequently is that they were kind of estranged. They weren't.
Again, this is the same thing
It's
as
the
the
exact same
abusive
thing,
line.
yeah.
This thing has been retold so many times that it's easy to read something like that and believe that's cast iron. They haven't talked in years.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it could be they just talk once in a while when they see each other.
Yeah. On the night in question, January 2nd, apparently Ina was having dinner with her friend Tamara, who happens to be Misty's mom. And it's unclear, but it's possible that Misty and Wesley were also at the dinner at Ina's house.
Sorry to do this. I've heard that it was dinner elsewhere, not her house.
I've actually
You have
seen
seen
that
that
as
too?
well.
Yeah.
I've seen it. Well, again, I've seen it both ways.
This is
But I
this
think-
is the hard. It's the hard part of this case. Is it's,
Yeah, I think on balance, having seen it both ways, but I know that she also the next day reported that her place had been broken into. So if there were 4 people there, so that's why I think that probably she was not home and they were all having their dinner elsewhere.
It does make sense
Yeah.
based on circumstances that I know Joe started to go into. It would make sense that they weren't at her house, but
Yeah.
having dinner. I think
Somewhere.
having dinner could be anywhere.
Yeah.
the reason that it's interesting to mention this
This whole family
this
conundrum.
whole family conundrum is that they were able to track the phone that the page to Zeb's pager where that came from, and it came from Ina's landline. at home. So whether they were home or not is a fairly important question, but one that I was never able to pin down, and apparently neither were you guys.
No.
Yeah.
And I had heard that it was at a later date that she filed the police report, not...
She didn't do it that
night.
night.
I heard that it wasn't. I didn't understand it to be that evening or the day after.